And to everyone out there, I just want to say, I know it's a little bit awkward because you can see us and hear us and we can't see your lovely faces, but I just want to say, welcome to this reading. I'm so excited to hear Chris and Lisa and Matt's poems. I'm really honored that you decided to share some space today for your poetry. And I'm really excited about all of your books. So thank you to everyone who is out there and made some space today to hear these wonderful poets. First, we're going to hear Matt Rohrer read from his recently published collection. Oh, you have it right there. The Sky Contains the Plans. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about that book. And then we're going to hear from Lisa Fishman, who has a forthcoming book, very forthcoming, it's next week. Oh, you have it right there too, good. Mad World, Mad Kings, Mad Composition. And then Chris Nealon will read from his recently published book, The Shore, right there, beautiful. And I'll be providing links in the chat to their books if you want to read more of their poems on your own. You can just, if you've updated your Zoom, you'll be able to just the link will actually hyperlink and bring you out. If not, you're going to have to copy and paste it into your browser. So that's how that works. So again, thank you all for being here, everyone out there in the ether, and thank you, poets. So we'll start with Matt.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for showing up to this. I really wish we were doing this in the traditional manner where I would come to your town and we would go out to dinner and then we would stay up late. But instead we'll do this and then we'll do that some other time. I'm reading from my brand new book, The Sky Contains the Plans. And this is a book unlike others I've written because it has a sort of project behind it. There is a state of being called the hypnagogic state, which you're all familiar with, even if you don't know the word. It's a state between wake and sleep where your mind starts to become very elastic and you sort of begin to dream, but you can come out of it. And I noticed, and so everybody has this state, and people usually hear voices or they see images. I noticed that I heard voices, and I heard a lot of strange phrases and lots of different voices talking at the same time. So I trained myself to wake up from that stage before falling asleep and write down these phrases I heard. And so I thought, I'll get 100 of these, and then they will become the first lines of 100 poems. I ended up not keeping all 100. The book is probably 60 or something. What was interesting to me, and you'll hear, what was interesting to me is how stupid most of them were, and sort of certainly a lot of them were sort of uninteresting, and definitely not what I would expect in terms of like dream state revelations. They were pretty mundane, or there were things that I would have never said on my own, or would have never written down. And so that was my challenge, was to take these lines, no matter how dumb, and then commit 100% to them and have the poem come out of those lines. And I would, if there was like a certain rhythm to the line, I would have the poem do that rhythm. So you'll hear, so I'm going to read, so the title of every poem is also the first line. It'll give you a sort of chance to, one of the things I like about reading from this book is it gives you a brief moment to imagine, what would you do with this line? If someone asked you that you had to write a poem with this line as the first line. So you can imagine that yourself. Some of them are harder than others, as you'll hear. This one is, the line that came to me was called Everybody's Relation to Change in the Sack. Everybody's relation to change in the sack changes as the very morning falling on them through the white curtains changes. The light grows older in the trees outside. The bed settles in like an old stairway made of stones, smoothed where the bodies sleep. In a dream I had, I saw time turning everything yellow. I saw many other things of wonder before I fell down, and rising in the morning, the same woman is sleeping next to me. This line is, then he was thrown out of Espresso Royale. Then he was thrown out of Espresso Royale for calling the devil up from a cup of tea, which failed but terrified the manager. We all laughed. We only came to take advantage of the day-old pastries and drink one endless teacup. His voice, as he put on his trench coat, was like a little sigh from underneath a blanket. I've seen the devil, he shouted on his way out. His eyes looked weird. This was years ago. The devil never appeared. People continued going to and fro across the earth, posting their comments online. This one is called, Did You Eat Your Blossoms on Time? Did you eat your blossoms on time? I called out to all the diners in a restaurant made entirely of blossoms, singing beautiful little snatches of songs as I floated past. And when I awoke, you were entangled in me and still asleep. The lonely sound of a room at night bent its strings to my ears. In some cultures, this is a form of meditation. The Chinese used to eat blossoms until they vomited halos of flowers in the fields. But the silence preceded me and surrounded me. I lay perfectly still, wrapped around you, an image of us in my mind, boating across all the wine we've drunk together in the slow turn of evening. Okay, this line, the beginning of this poem is, we probably shouldn't be discussing this. We probably shouldn't be discussing this. It makes me angry, the mental illnesses of the hyper-acquisitive that pass for heaven's blessing. We shouldn't invite this stuff into our home. I wash out the air with the Smetana polkas and drink a little ginger tea because we decided not to keep whiskey in the house this month to see what would happen, and it's happened. You're consuming darkness. You're consuming darkness, she told me. I knew it. I was talking far too much. I was taking the darkness in and giving it all out again. There's no reason to do it. I realized this. I was sitting in one place while spiders crawled all over me, or I said too many things that were easily replaced with silence. Like a shot, I wanted to spring out across the treetops in love with everyone. I heard thunder and saw lightning move in slowly down the valley, and I didn't feel the least bit tempted to plunge a knife into a critic. So this poem, the first line didn't really suggest much to me, but it very quickly became a hard-hitting investigation into whether or not the city of Pittsburgh is truly the city of three rivers, or if it's just one river that another one like meets up with. Look at the maps. Bless my nameless hour. Bless my nameless hour with red wine where you are now well lit in a sunny outdoor tavern that looks over all three rivers, whether there really are three or whether one river flows into another. The facts are with science, but not blessing. And I want your blessing, the whole town's blessing, by spilling red wine on your lips and kissing your idea of me because I'm home with the kids. This line was, yesterday could do a better job of explaining that than I could. Yesterday could do a better job of explaining that than I could. The mist pulls away from the bridge and there's a body lying twisted out of its boots in a very sophisticated pose. And the streets are strewn with dried beans. You can talk about how it works afterward, but it works or it doesn't. Two women wash some clothes through a hole in the ice. A non-violent demonstration of the birds alights in the frozen vines. It is a success. This line was, but when you were counting, you skipped 6, 7, and 8. But when you were counting, you skipped 6, 7, and 8, she said. She looked like a nun, but wasn't. She was, I somehow understood, though I was only 8, empty, moving around the classroom out of habit. Her greatest gift was to disappear. When she saw me looking at her this way, she sent me to the guidance counselor. I was the only person for miles without a television. I moved up and down seemingly by chance in the world. I ended up in a book. All right, this one was harder to do. The line was a toy spaceship called Almond Chicken. I somehow made this heartbreaking as hell. A toy spaceship called Almond Chicken versus the Mega Gun. The Almond Chicken wins. The Almond Chicken versus the Disasteroid. The Disasteroid is victorious. The unopposed Disasteroid rips through the Earth. The Earth is smashed into a billion tears. The tears spread out across the sky. From each little piece of the Earth, a toy spaceship lifts off. Revenge in its little heart. That one was harder to do. This one, some of them presented real challenges that I had to overcome right away so that I could just get on with my business. And this is an example of that. My sister's out there, and this I think comes from, this name is a version of a name that goes way back that you'll recognize. But this line that came to me was, "My name is Tromos Nibar. My name is Tromos Nibar, my country of origin unimportant. Tonight I come to tell of marvelous wonders under stars, of fields of wildflowers shining all night with strange lights. In the daylight, an image of my face was pressed into the wildflowers and grasses, and they pulled me out of my seat at work. They brought me to see it. A huge cheer rose up into the morning, though why, even they were not sure. Who was I to be a mysterious face pressed down on the countryside? I worked for a furniture reupholstery shop on the night in question. I drunk an entire bottle of whiskey but didn't die. I collapsed in my bathroom. I dreamed I was blooming. So this one was kind of my favorite, and this was actually going to be the title of the book for a long time. I had been doing this it took almost a year to get all these lines because some nights I actually couldn't wake up and remember them, or I couldn't read what I had written. But my wife noticed me doing this every night, and one morning she was like tidying up around the bed, and she found this notebook, and in like a crazy scrawl, like 6 inches high, it just said, "Seahorses are awesome." And she was like, "That's your job? That's what you do?" And it's my job, and I'm about to read you that. Seahorses are awesome. The entire ocean is very beautiful when it dances in your eyes, typing a poem on the shore, and it rises into the air to hang there like another dimension laid over this Brooklyn June night, Prospect Park West, stunned into submission. Just one color in the sky, the traffic circle typing a poem without any paper, like the ocean where the seahorses move so unlikely and the males raise the young burst out of them. This was another tough one. The line is, "You will notice a faithful block of cheese is present." You will notice a faithful block of cheese is present. It cannot harm you. It doesn't even see you or know that you're here. It is merely a bewitched cheese that is faithful to me and also does some typing and filing, organizing really. It is an extremely wonderful cheese. Do not be alarmed. I am its master. I am wearing a pirate's cap. I have been on Zoom enough to know that I look better in a pirate's cap. All right. The line is, "Try to go away and lie in bed simultaneously." Try to go away and lie in bed simultaneously. It's like playing the trumpet and making love. That's why I quit before they made me join the marching band. I knew the future was humid nights all summer in the city, a woman with very long legs, a great feeling of freedom, even from our kids sleeping nearby, slipping out of my body to instruct the people of the world about an esoteric something or other, embracing them in my golden arms, with our truck parked a few blocks away in the rain and thinking it can't stay parked there tomorrow when they sweep the street. Just a couple more. This one, this is a long title. You can't have two power sources in your car because they would interfere with each other, which I don't know if that's actually true or what it even means. You can't have two power sources in your car because they would interfere with each other. You have to choose the one that suits you best, either sobbing or sun shining on the desert. Both will get you where you are going, though there are many ways to go and you don't even have to think about it. The sun continues to punish us. Beneath it, somewhere, someone is still sobbing. In fact, if we knew exactly how many people were sobbing on Earth right now, we couldn't stand it. We'd be up off the couch, the cat knocked to the floor, and out onto the streets to tear out our hair. All right, this is the last one. I just want to thank everybody for listening in, and I'm looking forward to Lisa and Chris. This is a poem called "I Only Smoke Cigarettes on Your Rotation." I only smoke cigarettes on your rotation. Everyone else sees me as the actual smoke passing in front of their selection in the vending machine or waving frantically to get their attention while pulling apart in the afternoon breeze. When I wake up in your bed, hungover, shredded cheese in the bedclothes, I always feel briefly a terrible panic that I never called home with my excuses. But you are my home. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I miss you all. I wish we could all go get a drink now. I'll buy you a drink later.
Me too. Thank you so much. Thanks, Matt. Okay, Lisa, you're up. Excited to hear your poems.
Okay, how's that?
You sound great.
Okay. So, Matt, because of the poem that you just ended with, I'm going to change my whole order around and start where I was not planning to start, but I can't resist. You'll see why after the first little bit that I read, maybe. Okay. Most of the poems in this collection, the title is the first line or the phrase that begins the poem. So it will be fairly continuous from one to the next. Certain feet are large like boats, Sabine said in her kitchen, looking down at my shoes. Boat with sail, head with pencils in it, blue elephant, head with pens and pencils in it, bird head wearing hat, pink and blue rat, small framed photograph, accordion, accordion. She could see through the other voice, bird's hoarse voice, when shortly not at all had any of it happened. Whose body made her sleepy, was she thinking, in the absence of smokers, missing them? For the smokers out there. Okay, now I'm going to start at the beginning of the book, read the first several poems, and then move into the book after a bit. And I will just designate when this first prose poem ends, and then otherwise it's one to the next. Truth-telling is possible, thought Laura writing, so the poem does not need to happen. That is, poetry should not exist. Rather, language should speak truth in all ways, not in a separate realm, a special form called poetry. Poetry existing as a separate category prevents language from speaking truth outside of poetry. Her decision, therefore, no more poems. Write a dictionary. Where is this dictionary? Florida? Not using words. A way of being in the world, not extracting something from it. An interaction. The 5 ways to jump. The 7 breaths. 1 pair of long johns. The wine, dark sea. The problem of 2016. Spring goes down. Writing does too. Sludge and muck and sleep destroyed by hysterical birds. Who needs to sing at 4 a.m.? Writing says none at all. Michael says the poem will speak to an unknown addressee. The poem escapes what it means to say. A poem's being in the world. How is every giant lunatic today? Drawing a picture the eye opens, eye draws. Here you are, 3 trees in the snow, little cone-shaped shrubby trees, slanted as a border for a driveway. Neighbors, no more neighbors. One friend is writing winter, another is pounding copper, and there are plans and plans to march. The bees are sleeping, another Michael reports. We eat some things in the city where he has no car, but many hives, 2 roommates, Self and Solveig, and is 69. I don't know how to assemble it anymore, the pages and words. Where are the notebooks? Notebooks, who knows where they are, what they say. Can you hold me in tensility? Say words, says each word. Today is December. Last line is X. Today is December 1st, 2016. Today is, death is. Today is December 1, 2016. I did see that leaf, missing the play, then the election. Today is, death is, tumbling out in a rush, self-harming, story of life in a time. Night skiing, at first in the junipers, hemlock and spruce. The poem needs more space than at first. The March King has horse's ears. The Queen of the Birds loves Tom Horn. Mad time, mad kings, mad composition, James read to me this morning. But I misremembered. It's mad world, mad kings, etc. Swift writing. It acted cat-like or pressed into summer, elegant, handsome, and nothing mattered. Tasting intentions for going anywhere, Cincinnati, Ostini, Ithaca, Terza Galactica, Salem, Istanbul, feeling all careful like premonitions. There were broken birds in the trigonometry and a mud turtle in the road. Did you pick that flower? Yes, in time. On the avenue you followed through the Capitol, someone asked you for a brick. You did not say, carry it with both hands. Nervous, polis, nervous system. Again, no mother was intuiting rest, dream, weather, reason, loss, Los Angeles, Laos, Louisiana, and thoroughly going where she weeps, talk very frightening, actually talking you call matter to error, measure terror, eat ardor, itself young with mandate like tears. Something takes women outside dearly toward a lost message, failure to thrive. Sweet go-go lime, sweet spring grass. I've been looking for you. I don't know why. Put everything in the present for the present. Put everything in the present for the present. Why would you think that first line is a fiction? In the blizzard of 77, I was 11. How far a person recedes depends on the fox in the orchard being seen and not made into a hat on the head of the neighbor, who walked past the window just under the window, so the fox was all you could see, bouncing by on his or her rump, because how the fox fits on and around the neighbor's head makes the fox appear to be bouncing or scooting along, although it is dead, and its head sits on top of the human's, and its body hangs down, split into two, to cover both of the human's ears. Where am I going next? Compost, decay. On a walk I was walking along the river and this happened. And look outside. Aware of themselves, body, machine, semicolons. Does punctuation become a joint? Each letter begins with the alphabet it forgets. Beguile me, I was thinking, when thinking, what could Stevens have been thinking when he heard, be thou me, or be thou me? What have I bethought me that to thy purpose bows? This is not about that. Music, composition, third question, earth, air, water, fire, all elements, self in nature. What has happened to line 49? Feeling, book 5, books, dream, geometry and shell, boy of Winander, line 389, brook. When the wild onion floats on its back in the half-day light, and the yellow hen stops arguing with her god in the winter, early winter, just past light. Pencil presses halfway, and the time of time is short. Can you carry this object front to back in a room, in a man? Sorry. Can you carry this object front to back as a room in a man with straw-colored hair? I asked myself, and Catherine answered. She's French. I don't know what she said. The good, tall-looking guy in the bath wants music for. It must be Socratic or else stanzaic, a part of the object that carries itself. But what is it? Asking, listened, Catherine. A nuthatch walked up the box elder, seems more than can be said. Unicycle song structure of someone walking the edge of a mountain, a style of waking, eyes closed, disappears from the text, as snow into snow, to return to the text, a secret comic plot within the audible, sensing it, December begins. And this is the last poem. Well, I'll read one short one and then the last poem. Crankshaft pulley dropped on the ground, and we will need a tow. Dirty honey is the poem. Spoonfest, and Spoonfest refers to a 4-day festival where you can go and learn how to carve spoons, or try to here in the Driftless region of Wisconsin. Spoonfest. Drifty river in the Driftless, I have a birch spoon, supple, said someone, for carving. Shapely the mind is for making, shapely, maybe, notice, elaborate caterpillar on the brick wall, flowing up, not inching along. Next day, under a long voweled tree, maple, start with a blank, a block of wood to which you take the axe. Short voweled trees, softer for knife work, are bass, aspen, birch. What got carved? A buckthorn spoon, buckthorn masher, hawthorn spreader for butter, scrappy wood spatula, no, a bird or two-handled thing, not changing the wood into paper or copper. Thanks. Thanks a lot. I can't wait to hear Chris now.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's beautiful. Chris?
Yeah, great. Hi, folks out there. It's been really nice to hear you read, Matt and Lisa, and I second Matt. It would be so nice also to be together later tonight, but I've learned not to be greedy. So I'm gonna just say thank you again and how much I've enjoyed this. This book, The Shore, is built out of 5 longer poems, so I'm just gonna read one of them, the last poem in the book. It's a poem called Last Glimpse, which is just 2 words. It turns out also to be the best technical phrase we have for that flash that happens when the sun goes below the horizon on the ocean. And the poem is dedicated to the scholar Saba Mahmood, who passed away in 2018. So, last glimpse. Then I gave it up. I gave up thinking that the song I heard was the song of the world. I gave up lyric, gave up reverie, I gave up aesthesis. I left my notebook on the park bench open with its pages riffling. I kept my head down. I said, okay, fine, Elon Musk is the most important person on the planet. I did not read Ozymandias. But like that monument, I started to crumble. Down I fell, down into earth, down into its deep, revising heat. And on the other side, my life's antipode. Everything just slightly realigned. A hesitation in the driverless cars, a hint of lemon in the eucalyptus. Also, absence, a shimmer in the air where epic had been, a little grave of daffodils around the first person pronoun. Quiet, but not silent, a pitter in the canopy. You look down at your impression in the grass and go, oh, so that's why we sleep on our sides. You no longer need to know the end of the story. You no longer dread the great devaluation. No ziggurats collapsing, no cities on a plane. You shake yourself, head high like a horse, and step out into all the rain that's ever rained. Saba, the light these summer nights, it thins the line between not here and here. It lifts the ceiling on the sky. Those higher presences, like traffic cops, they feign indifference, but they feed on life's detail. They need our beating hearts, the redbud, the myrtle. They make a gate. You might get anything, some package from Amazon, some Galadriel come up the walk. It's 7 p.m. with life and busyness around you and the spectrum pulsing in the background. You're like, dude, you need to run some language over this shit because it's beautiful. Then you do the dishes. Later at 3 a.m., your dream life punts the excess back to waking consciousness, saying, you take care of it, Matthew. Effects, perfumes, the purple flower of the Russian sage, the silvered surface of the stoop, and all the friends who swirled around it summer nights, here, not here. I merge onto the far right lane to find you. What was your life? What's mine? I have only very awkward ways of writing biographically. These 2 eager boys, One's an opera singer. One does something he calls energy law. They have the same shoes. Maybe I'm watching the beginning of their life together. Maybe I'm just watching the class reproduce itself. Laughter, gesture, nervous self-extension. You hope it opens on to something. You hope they won't be cruel. Watcher, geometer. Try it on yourself, why don't you? All those years I thought I was a poet and I was just some person on the metro. But I'm okay with being numerable. Number of beats, number of breaths. Each of us pulsing through the nights, each a portion of the sources of plenty. The chanson de geste of your hand across the page, the troubadour amour of your eyes on the horizon, and the voice in my head that speaks to me like I'm a child. Some days I'm like, shut up, superego. Some days I just say, please always speak to me that way. Relaxing on the shore that won't be here in 50 years. Sea foam on the seawall. Swallows tilting on their swallow house. In times of despair, it is customary for the poet to project himself onto some animal life imagined as freer. I have this theory that the further the projection, the worse the situation. So reversing the equation, you get, hey, 2020, what's it like to be a slime mold? But life distracts me. Child things in the yard, the hula hoops and bottles of bubbles, single-use plastic that Allison will track. If I were Rick, I'd use this bit of poem to orient myself. Lumpy couch on screened-in porch, diagonal to the wind, the boys, the birds, the pleasure craft, and northwest, the domes of the Air Force Base, housing what? My poetry can't do what Rick's and Allison's can, though it's partly for them. Shoes tossed crosswise on the kitchen floor, sleeves of jackets inside out. And the Air Force Base is a Navy base, or it's the Naval Air Systems Command Base. Military websites are very strange. Top News has Gerald Ford announcing the future of carrier aviation. And there's a button at the bottom with a flotation device and a hotline number that says, life is worth living. Back on the porch, I've just finished reading Sea Surface Full of Clouds to Mateo. I said something garbled and academic afterwards, but I think he liked it. There's this rocking tandem in the poem between the shifts in what the color of the water is likened to and the shifting of the color of the water. It has this metaphysics where the substance of the world is light, where light leaves residues that become the things we know and keeps surpassing them. Like capital, I think, because I'm that kind of intellectual. The child in me asks, how does it move? And the older child says, it moves like tilting swallows, like the osprey, like the bill of the heron, still until the adult keeps his mouth shut. But capital's not predation. Your predator wants to eat you. Capital wants your life. And if you get in its way, it wants you dead. No, more than that. It wants you to think you deserve to die. Red. A wave rolled through and gave us red. The ruby, the cardinal, the furnace, the bellows, the bull. A yellow, like the sun at 7, like the wily seed of the grapefruit, which I chase around the room. The green ecliptic feel of everything that moves into position. And violet, the moss of it. I'm lying on my back in a flyover state, being flown over, amiably popping to apocalyptic Mormon pop. It's Ocho. There's going to be a lot of fronting about the apocalypse between now and the apocalypse. White light, braggadocio. After all these years, a certain kind of man's body passing by still draws me in like a wormhole I can never make it to the other side of. I wince from the too much citrus of it. Sometimes I startle myself. How can you still be so naive? I'm embarrassed. Some young part of me really thought if you strain to look like a Marine, maybe all the young Marines will fall for your anti-militarism. I'm dismayed that the default setting for gay white guys somehow still remains petty bourgeois, high value bodies, low value bodies. You fight to keep unseeing that. You say it's only virtual, but the real feeds on the virtual. They put goggles on you and you pop into a pre-dawn Sonoran desert. Orange, becoming yellow at the rim, still deep purple toward the zenith. You're placed ambiguously among a group of maybe 13 people. You've got a backpack on and they removed your shoes, so it feels a little like an actual border crossing. The bodies are realistic, but the state of the technology means no one looks you in the eye. You know that thought experiment? What would you do if you were invisible? I think it's come from Plato. You learn a lot about yourself when you actually are. For a second, I thought I'd wedge myself between the CVP and the child, but the child had a mother. I'd never stood so close to a cop. We were chest to chest, me against his vest, my eyes on his dead gaze. Then I was inside him. The code allowed me in for 3 or 4 seconds at a time, ribs and intercostals and a thumping heart with no surrounding tissue. It would shove me out and I'd step back in. Fuck you, I'd mutter. The interns would tug on my backpack. When the goggles came off, I saw my feet had made a little check mark in the sand, smeared where the tubing connected to its power source. There was a post-experience lounge with a handsome young man serving single origin coffee. And fleshed again, Avenger No More, jotting hurried notes for my single person, paper thin art. Someday, when we storm the detention facilities, I won't care about that hierarchy. Sonnet, cinema, first person shooter. And in the terror of the walls all coming down, you know what, Saba? We will never be afraid again. Summer nights, dark energy. You have to be quiet to hear it. Somehow at dusk, the little words from other languages become more visible to me. Words on hinges, words on locks. Dear friend, now you know better than I do. I've been calling it death as though it hated me. But that's different from the dark involved with life. How happy our enemies must be to think we deserve to die. And what a horrible year it's been. The death. I reached out my hand tonight and touched it. Did you feel? The fireflies, the fleur-de-lis. All this time, I've been ashamed for thinking what I hunger for is what they want from me. I didn't know. I didn't know I was so alive. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yay. Thank you, Matt.
Everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to everyone that's out there. It's nice to see all the love in the chat box. And I'm going to repost the links to Chris, Matt, and Lisa's books. If anyone is interested in picking them up, they're all gorgeous. I strongly suggest you read them.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, Matt.
Love you.
Good night. Thank you.